Well, tonight we discuss the looming government shutdown, what's being done about it, as well as a potential Saudi Arabia-Israeli deal with Florida Senator Marco Rubio, a member of several key committees, including Appropriations, Foreign Affairs, and Intelligence. Senator, thanks for the time.
Thank you.
The Hill writes, Senate Democrats put McCarthy in a shutdown squeeze. The Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer ramping up pressure on Speaker McCarthy to avoid a government shutdown by moving first on a stopgap funding bill that will pass the Senate this week. Some GOP senators are worried about sticking our necks out, quote unquote, if the stopgap is doomed to fail in the House. Are you worried about that?
Well, I think I'm realistic about the fact that whatever we pass here still has to be consulted with the House. I mean, ultimately, the only way to pass something around here is to get both chambers to pass it. And I'm not going to get involved in the House's business. I acknowledge it's right now kind of difficult to decipher what's exactly going to happen over there, and the last thing they need or want is senators telling them what they need to be doing. Suffice it to say that, what we pass here is probably not going to be what the House can pass, at least under the current outlines. Look, I hate these shutdowns. I don't think we should have them. We had a bill last week. A bunch of Republicans supported it. We could vote for it tonight if Chuck Schumer would allow it. That would prevent these shutdowns in the future. But it's where we seem to find ourselves now on a sort of a 3 or 4 year cycle. And the right way to do this is to pass appropriations bills. And, we had time to do more of that here in the House. The Senate, it got caught up for some reasons, but at least we got them out of committee. The House is going to try to do that now, but obviously that can't happen by Saturday night in time to prevent a shutdown. So something's going to have to happen to keep the lights on.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is why people outside of Washington hate Washington. It's a constant game of chicken, of a fiscal cliff almost every time. You're saying you don't want to get involved in what the House is doing. Well, what about a former president getting involved and making his feelings clear? Former President Trump writing on Truth Social Sunday night, the Republicans lost big on the debt ceiling, got nothing. Now we're worried that they will be blamed for the budget shutdown. Wrong. Whoever is president will be blamed. In this case, crooked as hell, Joe Biden. Our country is being systematically destroyed by the radical left, Marxists, fascists, and thugs, the Democrats. Unless you get everything, shut it down. What do you make of that?
Well, he certainly has a right to view that opinion. That's an opinion shared by a lot of people. Look, there's a lot of things that I would like to see done. There's a lot of things the House members have proposed that I would love to see part of our spending. And unfortunately, Democrats control the Senate. That's why these elections matter so much. That's why I hope we're in the majority in the future, so we could drive more of what's in that policy. Look at this happening in the border. It's a self-inflicted wound that we knew was going to happen, and these policies continue to encourage that. And this administration doesn't really want to do anything meaningful about it. I think there's legitimate issues to be raised, and I've been a supporter of Ukraine funding because I think it would be devastating to our alliances and our reputation around the world. It would be like Afghanistan, times 10 in terms of the hit we would take. But it can't be, there's got to be a strategy around that. There's got to be a clear plan. There's got to be numbers around it that make sense to people. I mean, what the money they're asking for now is a lot of money. It's only for 3 months. So we're going to be here a year from now. It's $100 billion they're saying the cost is. All these things have to be worked through, and they should be worked through as part of regular appropriations bills. But that's not an option at this point, right now, between now and Saturday. And that's, unfortunately, the situation you're right, we continue to find ourselves in, and no matter who's in charge, it appears.
Talking about alliances and around the world, I just returned from Saudi Arabia and also talked to the Israeli Prime Minister. Just take a listen.
For us, the Palestinian issue is very important. We need to solve that part, and we have a good negotiations continue.
If you were to characterize it, are you close?
Every day we get closer.
I was delighted to hear what he had to say, and to borrow a phrase, I think we're getting closer to peace every day that passes.
In your committee assignments, you know how complex this is. Do you think it's possible to get this across the finish line?
I do, and I hope it happens. And I think it would be an important moment, and for the region and ultimately for the world. And look, Israel's a close ally of the United States. Saudi Arabia is a key strategic ally of the United States. They both have deep and rightful concerns about Iran and worries about Iran. I saw your interview last week where he said something we've been saying for years, and that is there's no way there's going to be a Shia bomb in Iran, and there isn't going to be a Sunni counterpart through Saudi Arabia. I think that would be an important achievement. Obviously, there's some impediments that are going to have to be worked through, but I think it's an achievable goal and one that we should be hoping for and doing everything we can to help assist making it happen.
Last thing, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee is Bob Menendez. You were on that committee, among others. There are many people, including the junior senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker, who are now calling for his resignation. Do you think he should step down?
Well, Obviously, look, the allegations that are made against him are very disturbing. The evidence is not the kind of thing you can just dismiss offhand. But in this country, in the United States, guilt is proven in front of a jury. The government has to make that case, not because a bunch of politicians in Washington decide their party might lose a seat in the Senate if he doesn't resign. And that's what's happening now. I mean, he was also indicted, unfortunately, in 2015, and they didn't call for him to resign then because it was a Republican governor at the time. So I think ultimately, like anybody, the decision about whether to stay or go is his to make, but we can't set a standard that an indictment, just because a prosecutor indicts you, no matter how disturbing the indictment, that automatically means you have to resign. I think if he decides he wants to go before a jury and force the government to prove its case and poke holes in it, he has every right to do that, even as I would acknowledge that it was not easy reading to read that the reporting on this, because ultimately I don't think it's good for him or for anybody for that matter.
Senator Rubio, we appreciate the time.
Thank you.